It takes its time, and we're choiceless. We have to sit here and wait for it.
That's right. We're choiceless up until the moment that it happens, and
And
we're initialized.
then the red light comes on, and it's a ta-da! Dig me! Here I am. Hi, everybody. I'm your Uncle Ernie, and I welcome you to Tommy's holiday camp. No, that's not.
It's so good. It's so good. There's just the randomness of what happens.
Hey, you know.
I want to welcome everybody to the Trampled Underfoot podcast show. As Mark was telling me back in the green room, this is the episode prior to the 2025 Thanksgiving. So we'll have that as a theme within the or perhaps the whole thing is Thanksgiving. Perhaps it could be said that everything we do is a Thanksgiving because we're expressing ourselves in life. So in a
Hmm.
sense, we're living, and that's something to be grateful for. You know,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And grateful for all the things we have in our lives. You know,
absolutely.
sometimes the good, sometimes the bad as well as the good, because
A tougher pill to swallow, but you have it has to be said that yeah, it comes with both
yeah,
of those things.
it builds us up to make us what we are. It's not so much the bad things that happen to us, although they are tragedies. It's how we handle those bad things and move through them, not try to find sneaky ways around them or avoid them, but move through them. And the way we come out on the other side is very often very telling, and can be cause for reflection, can be cause for celebration, or can be just quite humbling, depending upon the circumstance. But um, I think the bad things as well as the good things are what becomes a major part of what defines us as who we are.
I agree. I agree, Mark. I agree, and being thankful just in my this moment cannot completely encapsulate
Mhm.
or express the totality of just the the fact that we're conscious,
Mhm.
able to move about and explore and learn and think and enjoy and moments and interactions and introspection, just existence is
Yeah.
a gift, and being thankful is never um, um, too little or
Yeah.
too much. I'm sorry. Being thankful is never like, oh, it's too much. I mean, it could be too much if you're like on bended knee on
Sure.
somebody. Thank you for processing my my ticket stub. Oh, thank
Mhm.
you. Like I guess we
Yeah.
could go there, but just just the recognition
Well,
of that.
and that's part of it, and that is accepting these things with grace. I mean, it really is when you think about it. Now, you and I, although we grew up in different sides of the continent, so we have regional differences and regional influences and everything, 14 years apart, we grew up in a fairly similar lifestyle in that we never really had to want for the basic comforts. We always had a house to live in, whether it was rented or owned. We never had to wonder where our next meal was coming from. We had parents who genuinely loved us and cared about us. And that it really is a blessed existence when you stop and think about it, because a lot of people in this world, hell, a lot of people in this country don't have those things. They may have parts, bits and pieces here and there, but to have it all, we really had a blessed existence in our childhoods. And as I've grown and gotten older, I was in my 50s before it finally struck me just how blessed I was and how much I had to be thankful for. Just with the people around me, the people I knew and loved, and the people who loved me. those I respected, those who respected me, and just my position in life. Not rich, never have been rich, don't really want to be rich, but I'm content. I don't want for anything. Sure, there's always something shiny out there that I wish I could have, but when it comes right down to it, I have everything I need, everything I could desire, and it's enough. And that's a very comfortable position to be in when you can look around you and look at the people around you and say it's enough. I'm content, I'm happy. So I have a lot to be thankful for, both in the past and presently. And sometimes it's nice to sometimes it's nice to sit back and reflect on just how blessed of an existence that is, you know. I don't know,
I
that's
agree.
just my attitude on it. So,
I agree. I think that that's from the inside of you out, very meaningful, clarity, humility, and rightly rightly declared. In my From my vantage point, listening to that, receiving the message that you're putting out, um, I'm going to be frank with you. The thought is the creator. I'll just be frank with you. I'm just gonna be
absolutely.
I'm just gonna be frank with you. That's
Hmm.
the vibration. I'm getting chills right now. I'll tell you frankly, and I'll just say it like that. I'll say it like that. It need not be, you know. So yes, I agree. And this is good. And this
Yeah.
is good. This recognition of the comfort to allow us to have food, shelter, experience, all those things. There's no price that one could put on it. There's no just being thankful.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the grace of God, I've got these things. And it's not through anything extraordinary I've ever done. I mean, a lot of it I just kind of fell into, just blind luck. But it was having the clarity to realize that it was just blind luck and doing everything within my power. I'm going to be frank with you, just doing everything within my power not to mess it up. Because uh, uh, when you think about it, when you think of all the people, the stories that you hear about the guy who hit the lottery for $300 million 2 years ago and now he's bankrupt, he did something to mess it up. He allowed it to get messed up. Um, it's all, I treat it all like a bubble. It could go in a second. It really could. If I do the wrong thing, it could all just disappear like that. So it's, forever in my mind. Don't mess it up. Just be happy, be content, count the blessings that you have. And there are sometimes I think there are too many to count, and be grateful for those blessings and just don't mess it up, you know?
Um, so I'm gonna reveal my thing.
Well, okay, go ahead. Well, not in front of all these people.
Yes, yes. Um,
Hide your kids.
and it's not small.
Yeah. Hide your kids. Hide your wife.
I mean, it is, but not what I'm about to say.
Okay.
You see how I ruined my own
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Um,
I do actually.
you see,
Twice.
in my in my own thing, I just ruined my own one side, and um, see, that's you can't beat that. Yeah, that's hilarious.
You're not helping yourself. I'm just going to say that. You are not helping yourself.
See, I'm not in that sense. I totally, but you led me down that path, man. It was your fault, and I went with the joke. I went.
Dude, it's your shovel. Keep going.
Bring in the digging crew. Bring in the digging crew. Cough a little espresso a stand over there
Yeah,
by the
next to the porta
latrines.
johns.
All right, I'm gonna ask you a question,
Okay.
and you're gonna answer exactly how I want you to answer, specifically with every word in order, in order for me to proceed. No, just kidding.
42.
Actually, that's close. That's close. Okay, so here's the thing. Whether earlier last year, or I'm sorry, earlier this year, or sometime last year,
Mhm,
whether it was live or in the green room,
mhm.
you posed a question to me, and that question was the ship's paradox.
Ship's paradox. Okay.
Do you remember that?
No, I don't. No, I don't. Not without looking up what the ship's paradox is because I don't remember. Well, you and I have had literally thousands of discussions, and some of them lasting for hours. I, I I'm afraid kind of refresh my memory on what the ship's
Well,
paradox
you
is.
presented me,
Mhm,
and I had heard it was not important enough to me in my exploration at that
mhm,
time that I had likely heard it and just, okay, well, there's something there, a sort of paradox puzzle, whatever. But you put it in front of me,
mhm.
and um, the puzzle is the following, or the paradox is the following. In Athens, ancient Athens,
Mhm,
um, I think it was well a Greek philosopher of ancient times, Plutarch, I think it was, and he saw that the villagers in Athens kept um, replacing the boards and keeping the integrity of the ship, um, even while it was crumbling, just based on time. Every time they would add a board, keep it updated until eventually none of the parts was the ship that it started out to be.
Yeah, nothing was original. Yeah, okay.
And your question to me was, is it the same ship?
Okay. I think I remember this. It's coming back to me.
At the time, you were probably surfing that, or you were
Mhm,
probably intrigued with that, and so you posed it. Like, who knows? And in fact, I don't remember the details in this and that, or like the specifics, other than I answered you. I
mhm,
remember I answered you, and I remember I took note, but it was none either way. It was just part of our conversation, and we moved on. You understand?
mhm.
Okay, this paradox has been around for 2,000 years.
Yeah.
That time, either earlier last year, or earlier this year, or late last year,
Mhm.
somewhere in between there, in one of our episodes, or maybe even in the green room, somewhere about thereabouts. Um, you offered, and I answered,
Okay.
and we moved on.
Mhm.
I remembered my answer, thinking that my answer was reasonable.
Right.
The the 2000 over 2,000 year old paradox
Mhm.
is something that's never been solved.
Yeah. I think because a lot of it is subjective. It
It's
just depends
Theseus,
on your opinion.
it's Theseus paradox, the ship
Yes,
paradox of
Theseus, the ship of Theseus paradox. Yeah.
right. Um, and so it's remained
Hmm.
a paradox in philosophy for over 2,000 years,
Hmm.
millennia.
Yeah.
It's never been answered. However, that day, in that exchange with you, I answered it.
Okay. And I have to admit I don't remember your answer.
Well, right, I'm leading up to it. So
Oh, okay.
But
Just letting you know.
so in that moment, well, we just exchanged. You offered me the
Mhm,
paradox. I examined it, and you said, well, what would be the how would you solve that? And then I just gave you my answer.
mhm.
And I said it as a matter of fact, and we just moved on because it wasn't really something like,
It
we're just,
didn't catch, yeah.
and nor is it was just part of our broader thing. We just said,
Yeah.
oh, here's a problem, oh, okay, and this is my answer. And then, in my mind, I said,
Mhm,
that's easy, this is the
mhm,
solution, and we just moved on, and it was normal. But I kept it in mind because number one, I like ancient things,
mhm,
I like memory, I like history, and I liked that. But I left it to the side. But I did earlier this year
mhm,
write it down in my um, notes on my computer,
mhm,
and I wrote an extensive thing as how to how why it's solved.
mhm.
Um, and I'm going to tell you the answer, like
Mm.
as like crystal clear.
Can I go ahead and put it out there for the people who don't know
Yes.
what it is?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. The paradox is it's the ship of Theseus paradox questions whether an object that has all of its original parts replaced over time is still the same object. At what point does the ship stop being the original? If every plank of Theseus's ship is replaced, is it still the same ship? What if the old planks were then used to build a second identical ship? So you see how the paradox comes into play here. So, okay.
That's exactly it.
Mhm.
And if you actually, could you look up, has it been solved, or make it a statement like this: has the ship of Theseus paradox been solved?
Well, there have been potential solutions and interpretations, but again, these are open to interpretations.
But
Um,
ask it just that as a point of reference.
okay.
Has it, like, to see what it says? Well, it hasn't. I know it hasn't, but just to set the stage for something that's never been articulated before, ever articulated.
If I could spell
Thesi- Theseus.
Theseus, okay. Has the ship of Theseus paradox been solved? No, it has not been, in quotes, solved because there's no universally agreed upon solution. It remains a thought experiment designed to explore the concepts of identity, change, and continuity.
So
So,
that says it pretty plainly.
mhm,
Okay. So I gave you the answer that one time you didn't remember because it was part of our broader conversation.
mhm.
I wrote it down, and now I come to you here this episode prior to Thanksgiving to say that I solved it.
You did. Okay.
And I'll give you the same explanation I gave you before,
Okay.
but something happened between back then when I gave you that explanation and now, which
Okay.
is, back then I didn't know why I was able to do that, nor whether it was important or not. But now I know why it's important, why I was able to do that, because I defined um, something that's been missing.
Okay.
Huge claims, insane from perspectives
Mhm,
and stuff. But I'll just say it clearly. I'll answer it first. When you look at a ship that you built,
mhm,
and then you go away from that,
mhm.
your time is done, but the ship remains. Generations pass, and the ship is intact, but slowly it wilts and breaks apart. Just do the natural thing of time. and people to preserve the memory of the perhaps incredible acts that that ship was, or the acts that were performed on that ship. They keep replacing planks and such, and it gets to the point where a lot of the planks end up being replaced to the point where there's no plank left
Yeah, there's nothing left of the original.
of the original, or even they switch them out and they create two ships.
Hmm.
Some parts original, some not, and then the question becomes, um, well, is it still the ship of Theseus?
Hmm.
Now that all the parts that made it the ship of Theseus are gone.
Yeah, after they've all been replaced.
Right. So here's the answer: the ship is a word in your mind. All of us that agree upon it in the English language, in Spanish, it would be barco,
Hmm.
nava, in other languages, something else, are definitions that contain concepts
Hmm.
of the material world. They do not have, these words do not have any personhood. It's ideas that save memories and
Hmm.
concepts in our minds. So, for instance, um, uh, the ship, when we refer to the ship, it's a placeholder in our
Hmm.
mind for the concept of the ship, but the ship is an idea of something that men and women build to float on. It's built with wood. Things happen on it that are experiences of human beings while utilizing the material world. There is no ship, and at the same time, there is a ship, but the definitions are things that we hold value to, but
Right.
they themselves are nothing.
Okay. I think I see where you're going with this. Yeah.
I'll say it another way. If you have blocks of Legos
Hmm.
and you form a Lego car,
Hmm.
and then you go away from it and return, and there's no Lego car there anymore, you take other Legos and form a car out of it. The concept and memory of you playing with the Lego car
Hmm.
is a concept. The word Lego and the word car, or I'm sorry, let me rephrase it. The memory that you identify with the Lego car and the Lego car itself, and you say Lego car and and all that, its meaning reduced, shrunk down to words. So, in other words, Theseus' ship is just materials. The experience is held on to the observer. In other words, from inside of us, go ahead.
That is one of the theories. The experiences are within the observer. That is one of the theories, that this is nothing but a thought exercise,
No,
that
but
it has no value in the physical.
yeah, it has value in the physical. Words don't have value in the physical.
That's what I mean by a thought experiment.
Okay, so or let me say it different. When I say, I'll say it different. When you say Eloy,
Hmm.
Eloy is attached to this person
Hmm.
here,
Yeah.
but Eloy is a reduction of what I am. So I'm Eloy is a placeholder for me, a person that observes and has experiences that are
Sure.
bigger than the word Eloy.
Then the name. Okay.
But
Gotcha.
you use Eloy in order to place hold. The word itself, Eloy, is just a holding spot to pinpoint where me.
Hmm.
But like Mark
To
mentioned,
identify you. Yeah.
to identify me, but Eloy is not me.
Hmm.
It's just a coordinate system
Yeah.
to identify. So just to bring it into full, I'm going to share the screen to give you a chart that I built
Oh, okay.
to explain
Hmm.
what this is.
Okay.
Um,
Because I'm going to, I has my questions
okay. Let me see if I can
and
find.
other examples and other metaphors. But yeah, we'll bring it all into play.
Okay. Let me see if I can um,
Screen share.
screen share.
Got it.
No, I'm trying to figure out.
It's right there below the two us side by side. The
Can I
bottom.
share a window on my computer?
Yeah, yeah. And in fact, that's one of the selections. You can choose a tab in your browser. You can choose a window. But just know if you choose the window, we can't see your cursor.
Okay, can you see it now?
Not until I add it to the scene and make it spotlight. Okay.
Okay, can you see it?
Yeah.
So this is the universal principle of collapse,
Okay.
UPC. On the top, you're going to see a cloud,
Hmm.
and that is what we call irreducible inner world source. So that represents your inside mind.
Okay.
All the thoughts, ideas, cars, Legos,
Okay.
ships, that exist floating around in there
Hmm.
is all inside your mind. So you can evidence that when I talk to you, ideas, or just you alone, ideas, memories, all things are swimming around in your head.
Yeah.
When you speak or write or sing or dance, all that collapses. Look at the arrow going down
Hmm.
into the outer world where you can share it with other people like myself
Hmm.
and whoever. So words end up becoming a collapse of what's infinite inside of you. You cannot, um, let's say, push
Yeah.
out all your inside thinking
Right.
experience out into the world so that I can see you, or you can demonstrate to me all that cloud that you have
Mhm.
inside of you. In order for you to push out what's in there, you have to select and then reduce it into words or any other type of expression into the outer world.
Okay.
So let me expand this here. So what happens is when you think, or even when you don't, there's this vast ocean of everything
Yeah.
within you. Infinity, irreducible,
Hmm.
continuous, always. But in order for you to express yourself to me, you have to collapse some of that into a funnel, and that funnel is carried like a carrier, whether it's through your voice or writing,
Hmm.
um, into a singularity, which is a word, a sentence, a paragraph, but not, but none of those, the word, paragraph, or music or dance, can encapsulate everything that it came from, which is inside your mind. So basically, when you think, you deliver words and the words come out into the world. And when you say words and people listen to words, they think that those words mean more than what they actually mean. Some people think, or no, sorry, most people, if not everybody, thinks that words are actually the source up here, the everything, when words are just coordinates to
Right.
a map in your mind that are um, placeholders, let's say, for something much bigger. So if you say hamburger,
Hmm.
in your mind, hamburger could mean much more than the expression that you pulled out from inside your head. It's just a singularity to have a placeholder for other people to understand that you're saying
Sure.
hamburger, and other people can, but your mind, your inner world, contains all that and more, irreducible into the collapsed outer world. So what happens is when somebody says ship of Theseus, people think and attribute the ship of Theseus, out here in the outer world, as a word container representing something infinite. They think that the word ship of Theseus means the actual object has a personality, identity, any of that. What it is it's a container for experience and history inside the vastness of the inner world. In other words, we hold meaning. Objects around us are placeholders of something greater. And so the paradox of the ship occurs when people think that is the ship the same when it started or not, is because they're giving the word ship of Theseus more validity than it really has. It's just a coordinate. And that is an example of the universal principle of collapse. And that's it.
Okay. And one of the theories, no, it wasn't Thomas Hobbes, it was one of the philosophers. Um, oh, man.
The problem with all those people, I already checked all this, but it could.
Hmm.
The problem with everybody that came before for 2,000 years is
Yeah.
that they did not basically they accepted the premise that words um, basically have the same characteristic as reality, and words are not reality. Words are a collapse of reality.
Okay. Okay. So then let me collapse your reality a little bit. Let's say Ringo Starr starts a new band and calls them the Beatles. Are they the Beatles?
The 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 next band called the Beatles is basically a concept in your head. The word Beatles can be replicated 50 times, 100 times, as much as you
Sure.
want. When
Hmm.
the word becomes a placeholder, like a coordinate on a map,
Hmm.
right? Then the question for the other person is they revive the Beatles and so on. Like all these other things happen. The concept of the Beatles as a band is a placeholder for
Hmm.
the infinite. In other words, Beatles is a collapse of the infinite into the material world. It's
Right.
just words representing things that point to something greater that can never be contained. So it doesn't matter how you work it. Everything that we share is coordinates to ideas that represent
Right.
the infinite.
Right. Understood. But is it the same coordinate? That's what I'm getting at.
Oh,
Because
so if you so for instance, if I say the Beatles,
mhm,
if you look at a map and let's say we say so we say think of human beings as plots on a map, um, with typography, like just
yes,
the world, oceans, and all that. Ideas. So humans live in this material world. We use to communicate language, writing, and the language and writing has definitions in terms of words.
right,
Words are not real things. Words are just placeholders. So if you say Beatles, that's a placeholder for a broader set of realities of events, of experiences, music and books and so on and so
right. They are. That's a word used to describe real things. That's what I'm getting at.
um
So,
and the word is a placeholder, right?
right, it is, but they're also used to describe a real thing.
They're used to describe event that is connected to other events that basically forms a web. Because if you say Beatles is a container, and if you think of Beatles in your mind, you're going to think of Beatles becomes four people. But then it branches out into all the songs. Then it branches out into the history of the things that they did. It keeps branching, and the people that were collateral to that experience, that event, and the music and the recording.
Mhm.
So when you say Beatles, all that the word Beatles is a placeholder until further information is exchanged. So when you look at the map and you say
Mhm.
Beatles, right? I can hone in on your coordinates and arrive at that spot, at that location that surrounds the world of things that
Okay,
that involve the Beatles.
I get it. But my question remains, is it still the Beatles? Because it doesn't have the original members. That's what I'm getting at. It's just a modern version of the Theseus ship. It we can think about planks on a ship and this, that, and the other, but let's think about something that we can identify with. Let's think members of the band. If one member of a band leaves, I think the band is still together. If all the members of the band except one person leave or pass away or what have you, and he gets three people to replace him, there is no John Lennon, there is no George Harrison. Paul McCartney is still with us. If Ringo Starr gets three other guys to play guitars and bass and sing, is it the Beatles? I don't know. I don't think so.
The Beatles is a name that is a
Hmm.
coordinate that
Right. But is
you
it the same coordinate? That's what I'm getting at. Because you've taken people out of that equation. And now, is it the same coordinate? You get
right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah. So you're asking for continuity of a word that's a placeholder for experience of something that was defined as a placeholder. So
Right.
if
And
if if you well, the answer is all, look, the answer is done with, and I'll explain. So the idea of the Beatles is bigger in your mind than the word placeholder, the Beatles. So when you say, is it the same Beatles, and then we plot a course to what I define as the same Beatles, which is back then when it was George,
mhm,
Ringo, Paul, and so on, and we get into the thick of that,
mhm,
right? Then we can start honing in and refining the
right.
definition. But the word Beatles, is it the same Beatles, is basically, so the Beatles in itself is just simply a carrier for a greater expanse of things. The question of, is it's the same Beatles, the word Beatle is the same, the Beatles,
Sure it
but
is.
what they represent now, when it's totally different, what the word represents now, if you say, hey, this is the Beatles, but they're all totally different
Mhm,
members, we could recognize that they're all totally different members. The word is just a placeholder, and we can see from our coordinates that it doesn't chart in 1969 um,
right,
Liverpool, England. It now charts in a different way,
right.
and so that sort of difference is stacked underneath that definition of Beatles. All
See,
that Beatles is a
mhm.
placeholder.
And you and I come from different theories on this. We come from different um, um, philosophical corners on this because you said a very, very important word in there. You said continuity.
Yeah,
And that is one of the philosophies that I'm following along with this, and that is continuity of form. The ship is the same as long as it maintains its structure and function, regardless of the parts. Um, Much like a river is the same river, even though the water is always changing. So it's continuity of form. Okay. That's where I'm going from. That's the philosophy that I'm following. So is it still using this thought exercise? Is it still that ship, even if all the planks have been replaced? Yes.
there was never a ship.
Well, in our physical world, there was a Beatles. So if you replace three of the members, I don't know, you could call them the Beatles all you want. But I'm going to shake my head and say that ain't the Beatles.
Yeah, the word beetle.
Hmm.
So the thing is that, go ahead, expand it
Because
all you want.
because the continuity is broken, the continuity is gone, and that's the philosophy that I approach this from.
Yeah, that fails
Hmm.
because it's not reality, and I'll explain. So, well, let's go back. You agreed that words are placeholders, yes?
Well, no, I didn't agree that they're placeholders. I What I said was that they are used to identify thoughts, ideas, and real physical objects within our world.
Okay, so you're basically saying that they're placeholders. It's the same difference.
Yeah,
You expand.
if you want to use the word placeholder, that's fine.
So you agree that they're placeholders, and you don't like the word placeholder. Why?
I didn't say I didn't like it. I said if you want to use that word, okay, that's fine with me. I just that you've used one word where I used 11. So, you know.
The word
Mhm.
that represents anything is man-made,
Mhm. Sure it is. Cuz language is man-made. Yeah.
and the purpose of words is to compact or contain a set of ideas that are grander. In other words, we do that for efficiency. We name things, the world around us, for efficiency. The problem is that wrong? Tell
Well,
me if
we
it's
do
wrong.
it to convey thought as well.
Well, there's more to it.
Right.
But is that what I said was wrong?
Um,
It's
you
either
could
it's either wrong, right, or somewhere in
No,
between.
you could put it that way. We're talking
Perfect.
semantics now because you can call it one thing and I can call it the other, but if it's the same direction, I'm with you. It's used basically to convey thoughts and also to assign certain attributes to something that's coming from out of here.
Right. So inside of our minds, you agree or disagree that we have this world. I'm using the word world as a
Mhm.
placeholder. Notice what every time we talk, we're creating coordinates.
Mhm.
So inside my mind, because we're using the English language
Right.
right now, and I'm trying to convey to you from my inner world
Mhm.
an idea. But in order for me to deliver that idea to you, I have to use collapsed words that represent greater things that you might plot differently, even if it's the same word, just like your Beatles example.
Mhm.
Um, in order for me to convey it, and then if you don't receive the information as I intend, as I've told you in the past in other conversations,
Sure.
then there's
Miscommunication.
miscommunication in the collapse. So I'm just asking you clearly, as best I can, within the structure of the English language,
Mhm.
understanding that I just said words are simplifications, placeholders, containers for greater things so that we can proceed in communication. Because if I had to say,
Yeah,
oh, yeah,
they're
because the dog, an organism that's, and then,
right. Yeah, it's just basically it is a way to convey thought as I said. Yeah.
but it's a way to convey thoughts that's a reduction, it's a collapsing, or it's a container of a greater thing. We can expand on the word cat, dog, this, that, and the other. Do
Sure.
you agree with that concept or not?
Sure, we're not going to list all 35,000 parts of your Ford Explorer. We're going to call it a Ford Explorer.
Right. We do that for efficiency.
Unless you're German, then they do add on all that shit. So
Right.
you end up with words that are that frickin' long. Yeah.
Right. So when you name the
Hmm.
ship of Theseus,
Hmm.
um, that's a container. That's a word. That's not real. The word, it's not real. The word is taking an idea that's not just um oh, the actual ship as formed, as we understand. Like, if we stop for a second and say the ship of Theseus would have been a ship, an actual ship where people sailed in and this and that.
Hmm.
But that word, the ship, is a placeholder for something that has materials that came before a ship. In other words, it's all collapsed into all the irreducible background beyond in the mind has to convey meaning by using definitions or dancing or singing and just all that stuff.
Sure.
So in other words, um, the way that people confound the ship paradox or the heap of grains of sand and such and this and that, all of them are wordplay semantics, not on purpose necessarily, but because people put too much emphasis and meaning in terms of holistic, integral, final, absolute on
Well,
words.
you have to. That's a lighter. That's a physical object. That's all there is to it. It's a lighter. The word lighter was used to describe this physical object. So to say that the words mean nothing, or
No, I
not the
didn't say
words,
that. I
no,
didn't
no,
say
no,
that.
no, no, no,
I
no,
didn't say
no.
they mean nothing.
And I'm correcting myself now. To say the words don't exist, you're right. The words exist here as I'm verbalizing, or they could exist if I wrote them down, but it's still used to describe an object in the physical world. That's what
Yeah,
I'm getting at.
that's I'm not, and I'm of course I use words to describe objects in the physical world
And
constantly, but
and and that's what this thought exercise is about, not the validity of what comes out of the mind, or not the fact that it's a collapse of greater thoughts, but you have a physical object and you replace parts of that object. Is it still that object, or is it now another object?
no, the problem is that the problem is this: that object is the ship of Theseus. But that object, the term the ship of Theseus, is made up of wood and that came from trees and came from this, that, and the other.
Sure.
It's not a thing. Do you understand? So let me explain. Let me try to find another way to
Yeah,
clarify.
yeah, you're
The
going to
ship,
have to, because to me a ship is a physical object.
yeah, but who made the ship?
That's kind of irrelevant. We're talking about a specific ship.
No, I'm asking you a question because I'm trying
Okay,
to lead you.
shipbuilders built the ship.
Trying to lead you to right. Shipbuilders built a ship, and what did they use to build the ship?
Well,
Of
obviously they
all
used wood. Okay.
wood and the materials and this and that.
Hmm. Okay.
And where does the idea of ship come from? Where
From
does
the
the
ship
word from where?
from the shipbuilder. He's the one that designed it. He's the one that collected the materials, and he's the one that built it.
So
Now,
man,
the great
can I finish
uh,
my thought? I'm actually.
now
Are you going to take that
expanding
away from me?
further out.
No, I'm trying
Go
to finish
ahead. Go
my thought
ahead.
because this is
You
where
asked me a question and then don't let me
no,
finish my
I asked
answer.
you
But go
who, and you
ahead.
said man. You said man,
I said the shipbuilder.
and the shipbuilder is man, human, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Is that a fact?
Well, we can assume that he's human. Yeah.
We can affirm that it's a human, right?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm. Yes. How
Okay.
many times do I need to say yes?
So, so the creation of a ship, the
Hmm.
design of a ship, the
Hmm.
naming of a ship,
Uh huh.
the attaching of the word ship to a ship,
Hmm.
the fact that a ship is parts, not the whole. It's the whole once the man designs, thinks of it.
Hmm.
It's the word ship attaches when the man thinks it, or invents, thinks, invents, and then goes about the task to build something that
Hmm.
he names using language.
Right.
All of these things happen where?
In the real world, right in front of us.
No.
as well as in the person's mind.
Right. Where
But
does it
it
start?
but it doesn't make that ship any less of a physical object.
Step. I'm not saying that. That's not my. That's. I'm not. That's not what I'm saying.
That's what we're talking about, the physical object. We're
I'm
not
trying to
talking
make your
about the thoughts.
dude. Then go with
You're
me. If you
you
can. If you can. Let me.
Go
Let
ahead.
me.
Go
There's.
ahead.
There's no. There's no escape. I'll bring it. Bring
Yes,
it.
there is, but go ahead.
Then show. But we'll
No, no,
see.
no, go ahead.
Where does the creation of all that begin?
It begins in your mind, obviously.
And does your mind contain more than you produce or less than you produce?
Some days I wonder, but generally speaking, more than I produce.
Right. Because we all understand instinctively that just like we're doing this right now, we're exchanging ideas that are collapses of words that represent things. I'm trying to deliver you an answer for clarity's sake, and you're doing the same. We're exchanging that,
Hmm.
but we're doing that in a limited fashion in comparison to what's inside our the inner world of our mind. So
Hmm.
we're putting forth
Hmm.
a reduction, just like the chart that I showed. We're drawing from that cloud into a reduced funnel into the material world,
Hmm.
things that we define as objects, this, that, and the other. But the problem is when people start to think that objects have personhood, continuity, um, the
Well,
only personhood that exists.
I don't think anybody is arguing that it has personhood.
Yeah, it has it has it has a see the let's put it this way: the ship of Theseus is an identity. People are putting identity onto the ship as it being a thing that has continuous existence and this and that and the other. But
Well,
what it is
that's part of the question. Is it a continuous existence? That's
right,
part of the
right,
question.
right, and the error is like with Legos or with anything else.
Hmm.
If you the word used the word used, the ship of Theseus, holds meaning inside the mind.
Hmm.
The materials, if you were to break it down, did the materials of the ship of Theseus, this is how another way to say it so that you see how it's solved. Um, the original ship that was constructed, you
Hmm.
could say that those materials went away.
Hmm.
And so just because you call it the ship of Theseus,
Hmm.
when you're doing that 500 years later, what you're doing is you're giving it identity when no
Right.
identity exists
Okay.
in it. It's in the mind.
That is one of the theories. Bum, 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 bump. And I'm trying to. It is called the. Wait a minute. Back up. Regroup. Um, I dug it. Um, B. Okay. Where is the continuity of history? The ship's identity is tied to its history and purpose, so the ship has a continuous history, is the original, even if all of its parts have been replaced.
No.
That's not what you were staking?
No, I'm saying that no, none of that. No, it's not been solved. I solved it,
Okay.
dude.
No, it's not solved. It's still not solved. I'm sorry.
Oh,
It's
well,
still not solved because your theory is as good as my theory. Um, Now you
what's
may
your
have put more thought. You may have put more thought into it, and you may have done a lot more research into it. And I'll admit you have. You have thought a lot more about this than I have. I thought it was just a fun little intellectual exercise. That if you took um, if you took your Ford Explorer and you blew it apart, and replaced all the parts, is it still that Ford Explorer? We have laws that regulate that. It revolves around the data plate. As long as it has that data plate, it's the same car according to the law. But is it? Is it really? Because everything's been replaced. There's nothing original on it. The only thing is original is the owner. But it's I just you put a lot more thought into it and you got way more philosophical, and I understand it's a philosophical thought experiment. My theory is I just don't know because I can see pros and cons for all of it. I can see pros and cons for your argument. I can see pros and cons for the other arguments. Continuity of
What are the
form,
other?
continuity of history, materialism, arbitrary
That all
change.
goes away.
There's a whole bunch of them.
That
But
all went away, dude.
um,
All of it went away, dude.
in your version, yes. In your theory, yes.
Okay, so look. Now let me. So I mean, I already stated it, and it would take to
Hmm.
process. But we use the basic summary is this: we have a irreducible fountain inside our heads.
Hmm.
Um, that's inside, um, and that's self-evident.
Hmm.
Inside there lives all these ideas, and it's
Hmm.
true. We're observing the world and all this and that,
Hmm.
and we're interacting with the world, and so all that we stand in a place where inside of us is the vast continuous.
Hmm.
There is only existence and consciousness and thought and memory all there, swimming, existing.
Hmm.
In order for me to communicate at all
Hmm.
is to collapse from all that using language, which is only a placeholder. That's all it is. It cannot be that the word mark represents all that mark is. It's observably factual that the word mark is only a representative coordinate and not a good one. It's good enough, more or less, to sort of give you an idea. But the word mark is a derivative, a
Hmm.
placeholder for Mark, the person that has all this inside of him.
Yeah,
It's
it's not a good descriptor of my psyche. It's not a good descriptor of the information and thoughts that I have up here in my brain. No. But it is a pretty good barometer of this physical bag of bones and
no, it's not.
protoplasm.
No, it's not. It's
Sure
it's
it
it's
is.
it's still a place. No, it's not. Why? Why
Because
is the
that
word
is my identity. That's my identity.
Mark is your identity?
Yeah.
So in your head, you're Mark,
Yeah, because I have no other way of describing myself.
right? Well, I'm trying to describe it right now. I'm saying that Mark pales. The word Mark, it's a placeholder.
Okay, you
For,
may not think it's profound enough, but it's simple and easy and direct
I'm,
language.
I'm trying to explain. Well, you're doing it now. You're saying exactly what I'm saying. You just said it right now. It's an
Hmm.
easy way to explain. It's a pretty darn good way to it, and that's exactly what I'm saying. That the word mark pales with the vastness that is contained in you, the living being
Okay.
consciousness. It's just observably a fact.
Now let's throw something else in here. I have something else to throw you.
Okay, well, let me just finish this
Go
part of
ahead
it.
and finish it up. Go ahead.
What is inside of you
Hmm.
is more than what you put out into words
Yeah.
in order to challenge me here. And when you do that, or I do that back to you or anybody, what we're doing is using language that are basically placeholders. You can call it other things, but essentially they're little containers of ideas that help us forward a conversation and exchange of communication in the material world. But your original, the source of that idea is in your head. And it's the same thing with the ship of Theseus. The idea of the ship as personality continuum and this and that is an idea in the head. The actual object is given a name, and people replace the name as if it's supposed to be. Where does the ship, once it stopped being this and that, and it stopped having the same materials, and now it's gradually, at what point between this and that? No, that gradual is in people's heads, memories, the values they
Right.
have, the impressions. It has
So
nothing to do with the actual material thing. If you wanted to do the material thing as you were suggesting earlier, then the issue would have been solved. But that's not the question that they're asking. The question is this: at what point, when all the materials, because they're inserting identity into the material thing, that's the truth of this. And what happens is that if we look at it how you're trying to go around it, is yes, at one point, and that's not to do with the actual paradox, because that's what they're trying to hide with semantics and this, and that's the paradox. But if you were to just calculate the moment each last piece was not the original, you could say chart and say, Eloy, at this point in the year 600, none of the parts were left. So all of a sudden, it's no longer the parts that made
mhm.
up the ship. So therefore, that idea of that ship as being itself as fully it was gone at that whole game is what's been played for 2,000 years, is placing identity on something that's just an object, and us that's comprised of other things, and us giving it meaning. We
Yeah.
are the ones that attach meaning to
Okay.
objects, and we use definitions in order to have a plot on a map in order to get there, just like the Beatles.
Okay. I don't think anybody is denying what you just said. My only point is,
Everybody is.
hold on.
Everybody is. For
But
2,000 years, they have. Of
that doesn't solve the paradox, and I'll tell you why.
course it
Because
did.
it doesn't answer the question.
No, you're
It doesn't answer the question. Now hold on. Stop for just a second.
sure.
For just a second here.
I've got it.
You went through the whole list about, people at what point does this, that. Are you saying that all of that, are you implying that all of that is irrelevant?
Yes.
Okay.
All of it.
So the entire mind exercise, thought exercise of the ship of Theseus is just irrelevant.
Yes. It's a
Okay. Well,
paradox that it's a paradox that I dissolve.
only because we've decided we want to continue to make it a paradox.
No, because people believe in the continuity uh,
Okay.
of identity in objects.
Okay.
In other
Good night,
words,
everybody. That was easy.
yeah, in other words, when we confuse words for identity, in other words, a word is just a placeholder, just like the
So,
graph that I showed. It's just a placeholder. We give it meaning. So you give the ship, I give the ship meaning. Yes, yes, I agree with you that yes, there was a ship, and they called it the ship of Theseus, but that name calling of that object that people worked on to create from different materials, all of that, the meaning was given by men.
mhm.
Men give meaning. Objects are in the material world that we use to manipulate, rearrange, and create. And that is the collapse. That we transfer the eternal into objects, as opposed to understanding that objects are a collapse of the eternal. What's eternal, irreducible, is what's inside your head. It cannot go the other way around. You cannot take an item and make it be as vast as what Mark Lindsay has inside his. In fact, it's what Mark Lindsay has inside. To use the name Mark Lindsay is just a coordinate to reach what is unreachable, which is inside of Mark Lindsay, the observer, the one that experiences consciousness. I'm not denying that there was a ship that people called the ship of Theseus.
And
I'm
that's what the question was about.
Yeah,
But
I'm
okay.
not denying that that was that. What I am um basically uh, collapsing, or let's call it doing dissolving. What I'm is the assumption that people were under, that we have to treat words as the final arbiter of material identity when they're just placeholders. That's all language is until
Okay.
further notice. In other words, unless if I tell you Mark Lindsay, or if I tell you Mark the other day such and such happened, such a thing happened, and I don't elaborate, and you have questions pending, just like we're doing now, we
Right.
need to keep working with words which are limited, collapses, in order. We have to play into the game of words in order and believe that words are the final thing when they're not. They're just coordinates for us to maneuver around to exchange ideas.
And but that's all we have.
Yeah, well,
That's all we have. If
we have
we
music too.
if, well, but it's still just an exchange of idea.
That's
Um, it
correct.
it's
Yes,
an exchange of ideas either through spoken word, sung, or even just instrumental music that have no
yes,
lyrics.
yes,
But you're still conveying thought.
yes,
You're trying to transfer what's in your head to another person's head.
yes. Absolutely,
That's
yes.
all we've got.
I agree.
All we've got.
But
So
you
yeah,
got
and I will agree that there are people who place too much emphasis on words rather than even their meaning. I will agree with you that there are people who think a certain way about certain words, whether they know the definition or not. But when that's all we have to work with, we kind of have to work within those constructed rules.
can I just say that I agree with you 100% on everything you said, because none of that is contrary to the universal principle of collapse. It's all included. Okay, I'll just say this. I agree with everything you just said. I stamp it with approval because it is experience and it is true. And in particular, you said it's all we have. I would I would I would pull back slightly with all, because but although you're still right, because we have to communicate, and what that's what we use, and this and that. So,
Right.
but at the same time, I could think of, like, we could do little drawings. There's also art and stuff. But
Well,
you're
yeah,
basically
okay, yeah, 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 and I'll grant you that there is graphic, uh,
yes,
depictions, photographs, or
photograph.
illustrations, or paintings,
Yes,
or other media in that way. But still, what it is it's a conveyance of a thought from my mind to your mind, and the medium I choose to use
is your choice.
for it is in most regards, but for expediency and for the sake of the people trying to make heads or tails out of what we're talking about here today, we're using spoken word along with a lot of body language. But okay, yeah, I mean, and
Absolutely.
it also depends on where we place that emphasis. If you're the kind of person that's going to put that kind of emphasis on just the word, then you're going to go in whatever direction you were planning on going in the first place.
And that's
So,
that is the universal principle of collapse right there. Now, let me explain something. What I just said and what we just went through um, is very significant. It's not the first time that we've gone through something like this.
no, it's not.
We do this all the time, every time we talk, but this time we're dealing with a specific topic and specific claims that I've brought up.
Hmm.
But all are, since you and I know each other, whether it's talking about the Beatles or
Hmm.
any other subject, we're doing just that you just said, verbatim. I
Hmm.
mean, the details are specific to
Yeah,
the conversation,
sure.
but the underlying flow of information is always coming from you, Mark Lindsay, which is a placeholder that I'm using to
Yeah.
identify you, um, of something vaster inside you,
Mhm.
that you deliver and we exchange. But now, here's the thing: we've always done it before you knew me, or I knew you, or Steve, Frankie,
Mhm.
Jim, Snow Crusher, all of us, Linda. Before we any of that, all our lives we've been doing that same thing. Our inside, however you want to call it,
Mhm.
there's something. Let's call it consciousness. There's a lot of stuff going on. If I were to try to deliver what's going on in my head, or you deliver what's going on in your head,
Yeah.
it would be just too
Yeah. Don't do that. It's dark and scary in there.
okay. But when you do act, when you do decide to tell me something, whatever you tell me is a collapse of that vastness inside of you into something portable that you can hand over to me and say, Here, Eloy, this is what I think of 1950s rock and roll as it was building into the 60s when everything
Mhm.
got crazy." Those are coordinates that you've taken words and created a coordinate map, or plot, so that
Yeah.
I can navigate to that destination of yours. But here's the problem: even though you are very explicit in your collapsed language in order to
Mhm.
give me a set of ideas to get to that 1950s event,
Yeah.
I can probably arrive roughly because of other definitions and other experiences, and sort of get to the same place, but we're
Right.
always going to have these little.
Right. You're never going to experience things the same way I experience them, or even see them or hear them the same way I hear them.
Right, but we have to use something to exchange ideas, and
There has to be a common middle ground. Yeah.
what do? We use language.
Mhm.
The problem is when you and I get into a thing on who's better, Ringo or Bonham,
It
Bon,
Bonham.
you know, well,
Bonham. I mean, it's not even a question. Come on, Eloy. Are you thinking? Hello.
but you see, well, wait a second. See, well, no, but you see, here's the thing. See how that happened though, by
Mhm.
us, because so
I don't hear any denials or arguments.
well, we share this material world,
Uh,
and
well, we have to.
we experience it, and we've been naming things for a very long time,
Mhm.
and there are and we have, and so we have the Beatles. I can say those are the Beatles. You can say that,
Mhm.
hey, this is Eloy, and I can say that that's the ship of Theseus, and the other person can say that's Athens, Greece, and this is the United States. Like we say those things,
Mhm.
but all that I'm saying is with the UPC, which is Universal Principle of Collapse, is that
Give
people
peace a chance. Yeah.
that people forget
Mhm.
a lot. All of us do, that those are placeholders. It's not denying that you know that there's a place called um, South
Well,
Carolina.
yeah, in the broader spectrum, if you want to back out from take a bunch of steps back, all things are placeholders because that's the place we have assigned to them. So, yeah, Steve says if a name is just a placeholder, then identity theft cannot exist. No, we
Right,
call it placeholder theft.
right, yeah. Well, identity theft exists in the material world because we are individuals. Plots on. So, the fact is this, or the observable is this: we are in the material world. This is not a, a question. We observe that we exist here, and we know that there's a human being. The word human being is a linguistic feature, but when I say human being and I point to Mark, um, you know, he's an individual composed of
Right.
flesh, but he also has a mind and a consciousness. And the consciousness. Well, let me just go ahead. I was trying to.
Yeah, but see, now I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into your gears here
Go ahead, go
because we got to think about, am I the ship of Theseus? Because human cells die at the rate of about 50,000 per day and are replaced.
ahead. Mhm.
So you don't have to go very many years before I don't have any of the cells that I was born with. So
Mhm.
am I really me or am I a replacement?
That's a great freaking question. I love it. I love that one. Let me ask you a question.
Because every cell up here has been replaced.
Yes,
So
yes.
does this even exist? So
I
this
love it.
whole thing, you
I
know,
love it. I
the
love it.
Trampled Underfoot podcast, the podcast that's not afraid to piss off 2,000 years with a philosopher
No,
with one sentence.
what you just did is good.
Mhm.
Okay. Now here's the freaking thing with what you just said. Don't do that. Let me before he gets into the thing. Let's not cheapen this with it's good.
Okay.
It's good, but let's not ruin this moment. You just said because we know there's articles I have read them too
Hmm.
where and I didn't mean to say cheapen like his contribution like Crushers. No, it's just that right now it's a pivotal moment. When you showed that,
Get on with it, baby.
it was just awkward. No, I appreciate his interjections because it creates
Okay.
the moment.
Don't lose it. Don't lose it.
You just said, and we've read in articles that after a certain amount of time, I've read it too. Our cells, little by little, just like the ship of Theseus, dude. It's so freaking awesome, dude. Little by little, start to check to a point where at a certain interval in life, all your cells and like everything has been replaced. But yet you're. But here's the thing. But you,
Hmm.
whatever that is, which is vast, because there's no stopping it, continues.
But all those cells have been replaced. So what do I really continue, or is this a new version of me?
Right. Well, but here's the thing. You are flesh and blood,
Hmm.
but you're also the expanse of the irreducible. Your consciousness produces out into the material ideas on how to build ships, on how to
Yeah,
build
sure. Yes.
CNCs,
Yes, it
but,
does.
but all that comes from in here. Now, all this flesh that keeps getting replaced little by little,
Hmm.
you throughout like the interval of that happening,
Hmm.
you're still you.
But that's my point. Am I still me, or am I just the latest version of me?
Well,
Because, like Greg is saying, I need a replacement or two. You get replacements. The problem is the cells that replace the ones that die are old as well.
yeah,
That's the problem.
but you know what? Consciousness,
Mhm.
that's material. But consciousness, it lives outside of that.
Consciousness, I will agree with that, lives outside of that simply, but I don't think the way I did when I was 20. I don't think the way I did when I was 15. So, am I the same person I was when I was 20 or 15?
No, in
I
that
don't think
sense,
so.
no, in that sense, I okay.
So, I think it's the same consciousness, but it's not the same.
No,
That's all I think.
no, you no. Well, just like myself, exactly. You started off, and along the journey, um, experienced life,
Hmm.
and you pondered things, and all of that you pondered. Yes, you experienced life in the physical, but all that you pondered was happening inside the head. You were having experiences in the material world, stuff stumping your foot on the side of the this, driving out over to that place, all that stuff, but it was all being processed here inside
Yeah,
in this let's just consciousness. uh,
right.
that has recorded that journey,
Hmm.
but you can't put a placeholder on that. That is continuous. It has no
Well,
end. You know no end of it. It just is. What you have is just is internally, and it's
Okay.
expansive. It's
Now, Steve just says, and now we are into the concept of id.
I don't even know what that is.
Okay. The concept of id primarily refers to Sigmund Freud's theory of personality, where the id is the unconscious, primitive, and instinctual part of the psyche that seeks immediate gratification based on the pleasure principle. It's the id, the ego, and the superego, basically.
Okay, so I think that those are collapses. In order to for
So
instance, what I'm
you're
saying is,
okay.
so
What?
clearly, let me say clearly, what
Okay.
I'm saying is that what the consciousness is as far as I can observe, is an continuous well of observation, ideas. It's too much happening. We can't find an end to end in it. It's just it just exists. We observe through it. It
Mm-hmm.
produces our
Okay.
ability to observe. Wait, let me finish. This is important. I'm not trying to be, but I'm just because this is important. That is for us, there's no end. And that in order for us to pull from there, we use language. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I got it. I got it. I understand that. But you basically have just destroyed philosophy
Yeah, I did.
single handedly.
I did. Basically, I did. Yeah.
Address your letters to Eloy at Trampled Underfoot podcast.
And how did and why did you say that?
Why not? Because I thought it was funny.
And but you know
No,
what?
I'm serious. You basically just destroyed philosophy because if you are when you're talking about it's all just a placeholder and it's irrelevant,
Mhm.
then what's the point in arguing Immanuel Kant? Or what's the point in listening to Aristotle or Aristophanes? Or what's the point in even studying um oh my god, I can't think of his name. And just my opinion, Freud was a fruitcake. Um I think he was adopted, but who knows?
So basically, um, when we use the whole key is this, that the idea is to seek knowledge, and
Hmm.
the most obvious thing, that's observable, that everybody knows because they live in it. You have expressed it so clearly that I just said to you when you were doing that, that yes, that's exactly. I agree 100%, because that's
Hmm.
the actual the lived reality of you and I and everybody else, is
Hmm.
that everything proceeds from inside our mind, and that mind
Well, I don't
is
think anybody's arguing
yeah, but
that.
that's the first leg of what I'm trying to get at. Like that's not the end point. See,
Hmm.
that's also an example. Um, I was communicating words that are collapses. You grabbed onto the first leg of that, and thinking that that was a place to inject. I'm not saying that nobody. Wait a second. Some people might argue that. I don't know that's true, but my
Well,
whole
I don't speak for the whole rest of the other 8 billion people on the planet, but if we're going to pick apart each other's sentences, you don't want to
that's
go there.
not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this,
Hmm.
that when we communicate, I mean, it happens all the time. When we communicate some words
Hmm.
to another person, the transmission is received incorrectly. Our intentions, whether we intended to do the best we could to give the other person the coordinates to the idea that we're trying to portray or convey, or whether it's just that we sucked at doing it, or the person sucks at receiving it, or their ego gets in the way, or they have a basically those are exchanges of reductions of words that actually mean greater things, and we can only exchange the simplicity of words, to sort of forward the idea. In that process, we are doing collapses of larger concepts. That's all that I'm saying. The implications are huge, by the way, but all I'm saying is that in
Okay.
communication, worded, defined, the I'll say it plainly, the eternal the eternal. Call it consciousness, call it irreducible, which I do. You can't find an end to it in our observer mind, however you want to call it, define it, because we can't. We're collapsing what we are. Can only express limited versions, and that's what we. And that's what people get confused in the world about. Hence the ship of Theseus. It's a collapse. It's a
Okay.
collapse of greater concepts.
Okay. Okay.
So did we do what did we do?
We you just summarized about an hour's worth of discussion. It's all a collapse. And it destroyed philosophy in the process because all that stuff is irrelevant. Freud, I still think Freud's a nutburger. Um, but Jim Dockrell brings about a good point. They do make a pretty good table saw blade. So I will agree with that.
But
Yes, I'd reduce that to humor because that is a part of me. I have to see the humor of certain things because if I don't, I'll drive myself up a tree.
if you think of that in terms of when people talk and exchange ideas like we did today, and we always do, and
Mhm.
you realize that, because I always mention it to you in our conversations, I always try to convey the fact that maybe the string of words I'm using are not reaching its target. Have you noticed that in the past I've said, from me to you, the explanation might crumble. I've used many different ways of saying it.
Yeah.
And this has been throughout our many
Oh,
sessions.
yeah.
So you know that this, okay, well, I didn't have a name for it until now. And the name for it is the universal principle of collapse.
Okay,
And
so is that something that you have developed? That's a theory that you've developed?
I'm going to explain that because that's crucial. Number one, I am not the developer.
Okay.
I am, or I was allowed.
Mhm.
This is going to sound, because I know I'm not, I was allowed to understand it.
Okay.
And I will explain. Throughout our conversations, and even before, I would always question the instability. I just lived it normally. In other words, what's the instability? Where somebody says something, it's mistaken, like that lady at the Publix one time, and I said, "Ma'am, I'm just trying to do what my boss is," and she said, "You said, ma'am, I'm going to call your." I shared that one event with you one time. There's many events like that.
Mhm.
When communication occurs and people act all kooky, they could be kooky on their own just the same. All those experiences I was observing where error was introduced when I talk to you and maybe you don't catch the drift in terms of what I'm trying to convey in a previous episode or vice versa. And then later I reflect on you and what you said. And then I said, you know what? That does make sense. When I said, I'll give you this example. When you told me what difference does it make when it came to whether or not space aliens, I forget what the hell, or maybe it was lizard people. I don't know what the hell, but it was an experiment thought.
Yeah, if there is life on other planets,
Right,
what difference does it make?
right. You said that. I completely, well, I don't want to say completely, but I did not like your answer because I wanted us to explore it, but you weren't, from your delivery or your expression was that you were trying to cut it off at the pass and say, look, it doesn't matter either way. And I didn't like that because I wanted to keep exploring that pathway, that route, that chart,
Mhm.
that plot. I went away from you after the fact and I thought about it. I had my interest, which was a plot, in order to explore that freaking idea.
And I derailed the train.
And you derailed the train. And maybe or maybe not, you, and notice I remember it to this day. In other
Mhm.
words, I've been tracking. Um,
Google, I got shit on Eloy.
this is important.
Mhm.
I've been tracking because here's the the importance of that for me. Even though I don't like what the heck you would say in that instance,
Hmm.
because it's not what I wanted to explore, but you were giving it a runaround. It could have been that you were giving an honest to goodness, hey man, really. And I think that that was true, but I think at the
Hmm.
same time, what was true is that you didn't want to really go into the conversation. But I think that both things were true, and maybe one was more than the other. I don't know. But here's the thing: I went away and I considered it again, and I thought to myself, how would Mark's understanding make sense, or not make sense? Forgive that. Forgive me with that. How could I fit Mark so I can see what he's trying to say? Even if he's trying to say to get away. But let me look at the lens from his perspective. Let me read his book on that. Let me listen to that song. And then I thought to myself, you know what? Mark gave a a a plot on a map, a direction from A to B, even within that, that had an answer. It wasn't all the answers. It was
No.
Mark's answer within
Hmm.
that concept. With no, there's a greater point here. Mark produced information using language and plotted from A to B. And Mark, he arrived at this conclusion like, what does it matter? Either way, I'm going to have to still eat, sleep. And so, like, you gave a condensed idea
Hmm.
that went from A to B. It wasn't the idea that I wanted to journey on, but it was still a valid idea because it will always be a fact that one will need to do those things that you said,
Hmm.
regardless of whether there's space monkeys from Alabama,
Hmm.
whether there's Texas rodeos in the moons of Jupiter, and whether there's lizard people sitting at a diner across the street. It will always be a fact in that plot that you set,
Hmm.
even though it wasn't the plot that I wanted at that
Right.
moment. That at the end of the day, so even though you use it as a device to end the conversation,
Well, no, I didn't really mean it to end the conversation. Please don't think that. What I meant was at the place I was in at the time, for my circumstances, that was the only answer I could really think of was how does that affect me in my daily normal day-to-day life? And I just couldn't come up with a plausible way.
and where did it come? Where did and that came from inside your mind?
Yeah,
Obviously,
exactly. And so I just said, okay, so what? What does that mean to me?
right?
It's kind of like the argument about is Pluto a planet? Is Pluto not a planet? Let the astronomers argue that out. It doesn't affect how I live my life.
Okay, so returning to the thing,
Hmm.
it was revealed to me
Hmm.
the universal principle of collapse because I lived it by existing. I didn't have a name for it. I just thought basically I'm naming
Hmm.
a process that's natural to everybody that's
Yeah.
never been named before, which is that consciousness. See, here's the thing: consciousness collapses into these containers of ideas and so on and so
Hmm.
forth. But people then create problems by assuming that words replace the thing, the eternal itself, or the consciousness itself. They give too much, instead of thinking words are us, you and I, trying to massage ideas, we're trying to arrive at.
Hmm.
Um, People take it. So, for instance, somebody will say, you belong to that political party. So they attach that word to your identity.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden,
That means that you are this, this, and this.
exactly.
Hmm.
So the word or the term or the definition takes an identity on, and then people collapse people's consciousness, their greater them, as an excuse using that. And it's natural because we're in this world, we're confusing words
Yeah.
for what's real.
And not only that, well, yeah, we are confusing words with what is real, but we're also placing more emphasis on the words than we are what's being said, the context. You can call anybody that you run into the most foul, lowest form of life on the planet with a smile and be just fine if you do it the right way. Because we're more concerned with the way we say the words and the words themselves than we are with the meanings behind the words. You can call somebody lower than whale feces on the bottom of the ocean. But if you do it using the right words and in the right way, you're fine.
It's also very difficult, I will grant, um, for us not to say, I'm looking at my guitar right now. I'm in the material world. That guitar, that red guitar, I bought it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this could be a trade off for the ship of Theseus.
Mm-hmm.
I bought that guitar at Guitar Center or Mars Guitar, one of the, um, and it's a beautiful guitar. I like it because it's that rockabilly and it's got the red and the gold and all this and that. Obviously, that's an object. I'm calling it a guitar, and
Mm-hmm.
but the problem is if half of the guitar goes missing or broken, and then somebody like like Willie Nelson's guitar that's all beat up and stuff,
Yeah.
trigger,
Mm-hmm.
it's still his trigger guitar and stuff. Like I can recognize that I'm giving it meaning, man. So, like, for instance, like men worked on that. Men and women worked on that. Human beings worked on that to do all the levels needed to create that guitar. And we can
Mm-hmm.
identify all the coordinates for the definition of guitar ends up being what I'm looking at, a guitar, and that's my guitar. And I
Mm-hmm.
understand all that. But the idea that 150, 200, and 1,000 years from now, um, a piece of that guitar remains, my meaning is no longer there.
Yeah.
The guitar, the piece, is a wood fragment of something
Mm-hmm.
that belonged to a person, and so you could go in that direction, but basically the guitar itself um is not identity. It's not. We give it identity. We give it definition. We know that this collection of strings, wood in that fashion, and that we define it. That's a guitar, and we're quite comfortable saying so. Me too. But it's not a human being. It's not a
No.
conscious thing. So the
Right.
ship of Theseus was in the minds of people, not in the actual structure. And if one plank was removed, if you wanted to argue it, it was the ship of Theseus minus one plank until it got to just the ship of Theseus, just a little fragment on this. It's just a redundancy, wordplay, semantical. It's a nonsense thing. It's something
It's a
people
it's a
people
thought experiment, and that's all it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a belief in words having some sort of we're the ones look, we're the ones that have meaning inside of us, and it comes from somewhere in consciousness. That I'm not saying more. All I'm saying is that we can observe,
Mm-hmm.
that I can observe myself, and I can say that I can think up stuff all day and night, and I know, or I'm gonna assume, but I kind of know, like I can that you can too, and so does Steve, and so does Greg, and so does Jim, and so does every Frankie and
Um, well,
Jim and everybody.
well, no, no. Greg's a walrus. He doesn't. Greg's the walrus. He doesn't think of anything other than cuckoo, cachoo.
So, anyways,
I always wanted to come up with the tobacco, the you know snuff tobacco,
yeah.
and call it kukuka chew, chew. See, I'm good at crappy ideas.
So, long story short, this whole thing that I've been on
Hmm.
started when I found a flaw between um, Ayn Rand and Karl Marx. It's not a flaw. I'm sorry, a relatedness,
Hmm.
and that is that they're both atheistic. Let's call it.
Hmm.
I found that, and so I started to explore it. And then all the stuff that I've been writing, critiques and this and that, I started to. I realized the common thread, and I found an inroad. They promised in their thing
Hmm.
this liberation through their ideologies. Rand on the one side, materialistic and gain, and
Oh,
the other
nuts.
person through social this, that, and the other.
It's
Um,
always scary.
but here's the solution that, or here's how I collapse them, and you could pull, you could take it and do as you will with it, but and by the way, it's not me. Here's the thing: I relinquish the insight. I'm my lived experience. I'm not trying to. Okay, so here's the link. Um, the creator is all there is. Okay, that's what. So I'm not even so. But I am. I'm to say, um, the the Rand and the Marx atheistic belief that that is required. That's
Hmm.
in their thing. Plus them being absolutist about it. In other words, this liberation needs to do away with because that's opium of the masses. The
Hmm.
spiritual, the this, that, and the other. While at the same time imagining that in their irreducible, imaginative,
Hmm.
in the same place where faith comes from, they hypocritically collapse themselves from the beginning. In other words, you can't promise liberation, this, that, and the other, and deny people the freedom that liberation includes, which is the freedom to dream,
And
to think, to do art, to express, and to
to
have
worship.
right and to have faith. So basically, they promise something that collapses on themselves because they use the same source where faith comes from, the inner world.
Hmm.
They used it, and then they close the door behind them and say, "You can't use that place. You can use it, but not for
Uh-huh.
this, or not for
And
this."
and what kind of liberation is that? And that goes back to using that word, and that's why I said that is so dangerous when you said liberation, because what the only thing they are liberating you from is thought.
Right.
They don't want you to think for yourself. It all goes back to the same thing. We're liberating you from the worry of these thoughts. You no longer have to worry about church.
No,
You no longer have to worry about faith.
they're calling it. They called and they still call faith nonsensical, a
Right,
delusion. But
right,
here's the thing: in order for them to say that, they have to access the same place where those things come
right.
from.
And I'm not denying that, but what I'm talking about is their rhetoric. They consider you not dealing with that anymore. That's liberation. It's thought control. It's mind control.
Yeah. So I did away with that, and the third one that I did away with, and this is not well, it's just whatever. But I'm just gonna say it because I know it sounds, it's just reality and the paradigms we live in. But I'll just say the third thing I did with, I locked out materialism.
Mhm.
There's people that believe that all there is material, and this
Uh,
goes to the ship of Theseus.
yeah, he who dies with the most toys wins.
Well, that everything you can observe or that exists is material, and they go away too. Bye bye. Using logic that was never done before. Um, I'm not saying that with any ego, this and that. I'm saying it, I'm stating it, right? Why? Why? Because in order to give the world materialistic views where everything is just material, you have to have an imagination. And where is that imagination housed?
Yeah.
The idea that sells our imagination, this and none of that. What is observable in a philosophical sense is that I exist, I observe what's inside. I exist also in the material, but what's inside is endless. That's all I observe. All that I observe is that I can tap into my imagination So why will you go around as a materialist, come to me and say, no, no, there's certain things you can't do? Where do you have that authority? Why are you tapping into the same imaginative space as I and telling me I can't, but you can in order to arrive at your ideology? In other
Hmm.
words, they are collapsed to the a pile collapsed, logically speaking.
Hmm.
Logically speaking. Now, people could play semantics. People could play semantics because, but by playing semantics, they are collapsing. They're basically acting out the universal principle of collapse, which is only an observation. Our reality, like our reality, is that we're in the material world. We observe it, and things that come into our things that are in our mind are endless. We produce into the material world, but nothing in the material world, nothing. This is what I say with. I mean, I'm putting it out there. Nothing that we can put forth encompasses the vastness of the inner mind. Nothing, and the inner mind. You can say consciousness. You could say other things too. That I don't. But that is how things work, observably. If anybody can say different, then they collapse. They enact what I'm just saying. They're using their imagination in order to overcome my objections that I'm a living being with a consciousness that's endless as far as I can observe. I can't observe anything else. And we use words to sort of get along, to work it out, to sort of communicate, to sort of get from A to B. So that's basically the gist of it.
Okay. Okay. All right. I mean, I don't. What can I say or add to that? I mean, I really can't.
That's what I've been working on, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and
Oh
so
wow. Sorry, I got distracted for a second.
so what are they saying? A
Oh, out here. I mean, um, uh, universal theory of gullibility. I don't know. You said something about the material world, and Greg said he's a material girl. Um, yeah, there you go. Um, okay, Jim Dockrell does make the point that you're also aware of more things when you had your original cells. That is true. But that's one of those things that and science doesn't know why it is. They just know that it is. That yeah, you lose approximately 50,000 cells a day and they are replaced daily, but they're an older version of the cell that they're replacing, which is why scar tissue takes so long to go away. Those cells are replaced in a few months, but they're replaced with scarred cells. Um, the wrinkles on my face are because the cells that have replaced are older versions of the ones they replaced. So that's why we keep getting older. Um, Frankie was a little bit confused when we started talking about this. He was asking the ship of feces. No, it's the ship of Theseus.
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 Hmm.
And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. And he wraps it up succinctly. All we are is dust in the wind, dude. Not my favorite quote from that movie.
What did just what using the sort of concept, be it Steve's a slight on it. I think he used what was the word or the term gullibility.
Mhm.
Um, um, he plotted a coordinate that he transmitted out into the world, directed at me, directed at the idea. What would one think? I mean, just looking at it, cold hard facts. If you look at the string of words, which by the way, he could have been, um,
I don't know when that came in, so I don't know if that was directed at you or if that was directed at Ayn Rand or if that was directed at Mark. I don't know when that came in.
well, no, that's what I'm addressing now.
Oh, okay.
Obviously, I don't know either, but it came in 22 minutes ago.
Let's
He
go.
said
Yeah.
universal theory of gullibility.
Hmm.
Now, here's the thing, and just like every other thing, that because my what I'm putting out there is universal principle of collapse,
Hmm.
and so he's playing with the words. Um,
Oh, okay.
so notice he plotted a coordinate that signals, well, it could signal many things, but it arrives without care or the appearance of care to show disagreement, right? That's the signal that I receive. Um, but this is beyond, like what I'm saying, is beyond whether or not um, there's favoritism of ego, protection of ego, whether or not somebody thinks one thing or the other. There's none of that. This has nothing to do with me as like
Oh,
this is just what's observable. Whether or not people want to participate, understand, reject, what I'm basically saying is that this is like basically describing how humans interact, man. And we're doing it all right now. Steve's thing might be a slight, maybe, um, but he's still collapsing more that he has in his mind than just that. Because if that's the totality of Steve's thinking, which is not, it can't be. We all recognize that Steve has more going on inside the mind than just three, four words. We are recognizing that Steve's sentence is a collapsed, reduced, funneled down version of all that he has within him to be able to say and argue and critique and think about. So he's basically producing everything I just said. Anyhow, I'm not saying anything different than what he's showing, than what you've showed, that what I'm showing. That's how, but it's never been named as such. Never been named as such. And the
okay.
implications are that you can solve paradoxes that are 2,000 years old by simply understanding that words are placeholders, not identity. And, that's it. There's no good, bad, or the other way. It's just something that is. And I'm not claiming other than, yeah, I was thinking in that way, and the definition came, but after a long time, it's just the way we behave, and I'm giving it a definition so it can be pointed at, and that's just all it is, nothing more.
Okay. The Trampled Underfoot podcast. We hate philosophy.
Did we do something terrible with philosophy?
You destroyed it. You basically said that the arguments are irrelevant. It doesn't matter.
Well,
No, I'm serious. You basically said the arguments don't matter. It's all irrelevant because every word used to formulate that philosophy is just a placeholder. It has no material meaning.
no, that's not what I said. I didn't say it doesn't have
All the words are placeholders.
right. There's more information, so I'm not saying it doesn't have meaning. I'm not saying
Oh,
guitar doesn't have meaning.
oh no, okay. It does have a meaning. Well, no, because you said earlier it doesn't have an identity. That's what you said.
Right, identity
Identity.
is different
Excuse me.
than meaning. We're the
Okay.
ones that give meaning to things,
Yeah,
and
we have decided the definition. And common usage decides the definition eventually, but
yeah,
it doesn't have an identity. Well, using that, even calling something the theory of um, continuity of history,
right.
those
It's a
are just
class.
they're just placeholders.
Yes, correct,
They have no identity, so
correct.
therefore they're irrelevant.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Irrelevant is something you're attaching to it. I'm
I
saying, well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that um, they're just placeholders.
but I asked you earlier, so they're irrelevant. You said yes.
No,
You thought about it for a minute. You said yes.
you said so. So
The
the
theory of
the paradoxes, yes,
right.
the paradoxes do go away. The reason the paradoxes go away is because that's the problem. Okay, so the guitar has meaning because I give
Mhm.
it meaning. It doesn't have identity. If I want, I give it identity, but that's a
Yeah,
collapse in
that's a
itself.
personal thing. Yes,
Right,
you've given that identity. You call it Snoopy, whatever.
but it doesn't have meaning in itself. I'm
Right.
giving it that sort of thing.
Right.
For another person, that guitar could be junk.
Hmm.
So I'm the one that gives it meaning. But the definition of a guitar, like saying guitar,
Hmm.
is just a placeholder so that we all can navigate and say, "Hey, Mark, my guitar is red," and okay, but it doesn't um, mean anything other than that unless I give it, you give it meaning. Unless we introduce those things like
Right.
Beatles and this, that, and the other, we are what gives things meaning because everything else is objects. Now, it doesn't mean that our conversation isn't important or this. I'm not saying none of that. All I'm saying is that when it comes to paradoxes of word usage, like 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 semantics,
Hmm.
they're doing what I'm just describing now.
Okay, so not all paradoxes are irrelevant. The Fermi paradox is still real.
Which one's the Fermi?
That if there are millions and millions and millions of suns that have millions and millions and millions of planets around them, and millions of those planets are capable of supporting life, and there are aliens out there, where are they?
Yeah, that collapses instantaneously. You're using language to set up a situation
Okay,
that
I'm
is
not using it. Fermi is using it.
okay.
I was just repeating it.
Right. So Fermi is using. You can change out that or use the sun's millions and upon billions and quadrillions of suns. You are utilizing a collapsed um, form of communication in order to set up a situation that's a reduction of reality. Um, so you can make words sound like gibberish. You can create a situation that's gibberish and create a paradox. You know,
Okay.
you
Well,
could do that.
the Fermi paradox was proposed by physicist Enrico Fermi in 1950. He says it, and the paradox is the contradiction between the high probability of an extraterrestrial civility, the high probability of extraterrestrial civilizations existing and the lack of evidence or contact with them. Basically, where is everybody?
Right. Well, you could. So that. And by the way, this doesn't mean that like testing and
So that is still valid.
oh, if you have a question and you're
Mhm,
testing it,
mhm.
of course, anything you're testing, like medical,
Well,
everything is the same. The only thing that I'm saying is, like, okay, everything is the same,
mhm.
except all I'm saying is that people take for granted that words are more. So words are doing more heavy lifting for people, thinking that those things are not malleable when they are. And sentences and ideas that are put out in the world, people think of as rigid and they confuse that for the source of every like they
Right.
confuse it for um, something solid, something concrete, when in fact those are placeholders, coordinates, reduced ideas that need more scrutiny, like more a little
Well,
bit more digging.
well, but that's kind of sort of what a paradox is. What you said earlier in that statement. A paradox is a statement, concept, or situation that appears to be self contradictory, but contains a deeper truth.
Mhm.
And they give a couple of, um, it can be a logical puzzle that challenges our reasoning, or a seemingly absurd idea that, upon a closer examination, holds a valid point.
Right.
An everyday example is a phrase like less is more.
Hmm.
It's a contradictory statement, but there's a deeper truth in there when you think about it.
Well, but here, let me answer that.
Mm-hmm.
You answered it yourself right now.
Okay, that's the textbook definition of what a paradox is.
Well, let me just
Mhm.
clarify this thing. You answered it yourself while reading the darn definition, using the less is more. You can say less is more,
Mhm.
and if you leave it at that, um, with the values of less and more,
Mhm.
less is more. But you didn't do that because you have an inner fountain of continuous thinking, and you basically sussed or out, or config. In fact, I did it myself. There's millions of ways that you can fix that, right?
Okay, I was reading verbatim.
No, no, no. But when you right, okay, its own definition
Mhm.
collapses itself. In
Yeah,
other words, what you just read
mhm.
collapsed itself. In other words, it became done away with. Why?
Right.
Because definitions are placeholders. So if less is more, then you would say, sure, in certain cases, less
Mhm.
exposure to the sun is more beneficial. You could do whatever you want with it
Yeah.
because it's all contingent on more information. It's all placeholder ideas using words.
Well, using that argument right there, every statement is
Yes.
just a collapse.
Yes.
Okay. Well then, all right. Let's go ahead and land the plane. Wrap it up.
Do you disagree with that?
Not necessarily. Not from a logical standpoint, because I have nothing to. I What am I going to argue it with? You
But
know.
but but I'll say this last thing before we land.
Hmm.
Yes, I'm saying that
Hmm.
everything is a collapse. But
Oh,
what happened?
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yes, I'm saying that, Mark.
Hmm.
But it's important to realize that that doesn't take away the utility and
Okay.
obvious necessity for us to do that, because if not, we can't say jack squat.
Nope.
We need to have collapses in order to identify the world. So I'm not saying collapses are bad. I'm not saying collapses are bad. They can be bad. They can be bad. All I'm
Hmm.
saying is that collapses are constant in order to move about this out, material world. That's all. I'm not trying to say that collapses are absolutely bad.
Hmm.
They're just a means to an end to identify the world around us tentatively.
Hmm.
Mark,
Okay. Okay.
Mark is okay with eating barbecue.
Hmm.
I saw barbecue, so that's why I said barbecue.
Yeah. Well, I will work for barbecue.
Mark is okay with eating barbecue on Sundays, like let's say,
You betcha.
but one Sunday he's not. We can play with what Mark Interior uses those terms for. This week I'm not okay with going and doing barbecue. Okay, okay, fine.
I would have to be pretty ill, but yeah, okay, I guess it could happen.
So yeah, so that's
Okay.
that. I
What
into the
what I went ooh about was, and I've talked about this before, and I'm going to do something I normally don't do. I'm going to screen share. Linda and I have been monitoring the Kilauea crater, and this is live. That is Hale Mau Mau crater up at Kilauea on the Big Island. The U.S. Geological Survey has three different cameras set up to show the fountaining happening off of Hale Mau Mau crater. This is awesome stuff. You don't get any kind of a sense of scale of how big this actually is. But I can tell you that the crater this is coming out of, that crater right there, Where that fountain right there is coming out of is about 150 feet in diameter.
So like a skyscraper.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't see any reports um, about how the fountains are approximately 450 to 500 feet right now. So, and this is live. This is going on right this, well, a few seconds back. Okay. That's going on right now. This is some stuff, man. And it's weird to think of it. That's rivers of molten rock just cruising down the slope. How little we really are, how small we really are. It's just insane.
I don't know. Are we?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't
Uh,
know about how little in size compared to that. Yeah.
that's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. Just how small we are. Um, and I thought you were going to bust into a Jimmy Buffett song. I really did.
I don't know.
Where am I going to go when the volcano blow? Yep,
That's pretty freaking massive, and it's actually um pretty in a strange. I mean, it's
it
visually
is
pretty.
visually pretty. It is 100%. It's. I mean, look at that. That's you see that kind of stuff on National Geographic. This is live right now. I'll go ahead over to the Trampled Underfoot podcast Facebook page and I'll put links up to these three cameras. Um, it does this here recently, and I'm talking about the last 4 or 5 months. It does this about every 2 weeks, roughly. Every 10 days, 10 to 14 days, it erupts like this. It had been pooling and overflowing like this without the fountains for a couple of days, and we thought it was over. We thought it was done. But this is, well, when did this start happening? Well, you can go back in the timeline on this live video. You can see where it started.
Holy smokes,
This crater right here is 150 feet across. So you can kind of see, you know, the scale of this thing.
dude! That right
And then
there,
to go to that, I
it's
mean,
shooting up, isn't it?
yes, it is.
No,
And
that's a good example of where does the volcano? Where is the volcano? Exactly. Where does it begin and where does it end? Where?
um, the volcano is the collective word for we have given the entire structure. We can get into lava tubes and we can get into magma chambers and we can get into calderas and we can get into craters and things. They
Right.
all have a specific meaning.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about the sum of its parts, we say volcano because everybody can identify with that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the container of the idea, the
Mhm.
concept.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one is crazy.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
yeah.
is.
And that's shooting up high.
Yeah. And can you see all the what looks like black
Yeah.
right there where the lava cools?
Yeah.
That's rock. When it gets it's lava, it's magma underground, it's lava when it comes out, and when it cools, that is rock. Those are boulders. Those are the size of a car. That's the power that's ejecting out of this right now.
And has has this been going on? Damn, dude, that's crazy. Has this been going on always in Hawaii?
No. We talked about this a couple of months back. Um, Linda and I have been here. this whole crater system right here collapsed. It took about 2 months to collapse. It collapsed down into this caldera down here um, in 2018. We were here standing on land that no longer exists, looking down into this crater in 1997 or 1998. Linda says this latest episode started in December of 2024, so it's been doing this since December of 2024.
All year.
Yeah. Okay, Linda says show cam C. All right, it is 2.5 miles. This is camera B. Let's go over to camera C. Yeah, camera C is 2.5 miles away from the vent. So the distance from where this camera sits to where the vent is 2.5 miles.
That's crazy.
And remember, I was talking to you about VOG. It's volcanic smog.
I don't remember that, but okay.
Okay, well, that's VOG. You can see that haze. That's VOG. A lot of poisonous gases and things like that. So this camera is 2.5 miles away from the crater. It's wild. And then we'll jump to live view now. This is live on Cam C. So yeah, they've got a bunch of cameras set up and you can get different views. Let me go back to live. That was earlier today. Live. There we go. And then there's camera A. So, and there's another vent over here that isn't erupting right now. It isn't producing anything. But oops. Yeah, you can see there's one vent there. This is the southernmost vent. This is the crater that's currently erupting. That's the north vent. And you can see there it's now starting to come up and erupt. And then boom. There have been times in the past where they were both erupting at the same time. Or they call this fountaining for obvious reasons. There have been times when they were both fountaining at the same time. And it's just fascinating to watch. So
It's bigger than life. Actually, it's like wow.
it is. It really is.
And the river that forms from it.
Uh-huh. Um, I've seen some numbers, not this particular eruption, but very similar eruptions. The rivers that are flowing are 35 feet deep. So it's pretty fascinating to watch this. Um, okay, Linda says on camera C you can see some faint hydrogen flaming. Okay, yeah, they produce a lot of noxious gases, hydrogen sulfide, sulfur dioxide, um, tons and tons of carbon dioxide, and a little bit of carbon monoxide in there just for a little extra flavor, as well as a bunch of other things. But you see, camera C. Okay, go to camera C. And she says you can see some hydrogen flaming as it produces hydrogen gas. It ignites. And was that down below, Linda, or was that up above? We've been watching this and learning too much about it, but it's really something. It's a spectacle. And just a casual reminder that nature always wins. That we can do so much, but we can only do so much. And oh, now you say Cam A. I thought you said Cam C. I'm sorry. My mistake. Cam A, you can see some hydrogen flaming. And I'm not seeing where it is. Oh, maybe down in here, right down low. Yeah. That sudden burst of light. Yeah.
That's hydrogen.
Yep, hydrogen gas burning off. Steve says the best thing to do is not live right there. Yeah, yeah.
Jim said.
I thought I said that.
You said Steve said.
Oh, did I say Steve? I meant Jim. Okay. All right. Oh, okay. I see what she's talking about. Linda says that right there. There's some hydrogen flaming coming out of South Vent. Okay. All right.
I see it.
Yeah. It's wild. It really is. So it's burning off hydrogen gases. Usually, it's the degassed lava that is being expelled in a fountain eruption.
So nothing's going to be built there after the fact.
Not for a few thousand years. No, not for a few thousand years. And in fact, this is the same um, volcanoes, the volcanic system, the Kilauea caldera. Back in 2018, 2019, they had a major eruption downslope where vents opened up in the middle of a residential neighborhood and basically just wiped the whole place out. And they're still not letting people back in there. And I'm trying to remember what that I can't remember what the name of that housing development was. But that was along the southern rift of this uh, system. Um, Jim Dockrell says in a few thousand years it'll be east of there. Yeah, there's a seamount, and I can't remember the name of, and it's Hawaiian, and I couldn't pronounce it anyway. That is about, oh my gosh, I can't remember how far off the coast of the Big Island. This is on the Big Island of Hawaii, and it's a seamount that is volcanic, and it grows as there are underwater eruptions like this, and then it collapses, and then it grows and collapses. And the latest estimate I heard was in it won't break the surface of the ocean for another 10,000 years. So, um, the whole chain of islands were made as it passed over the area. Yes. And this is all, there it is, the Kapono Seamount, not Pahala. Pahala is another rift. It is not the seamount. Um, the whole chain of islands was created, and it's all plate tectonics as it came over a um, a weak spot uh, in the mantle, and it started forcing the lava up. The reason the Big Island is so big is because they don't understand why or how, but somehow as those plates shifted, they slowed down. And as they slowed down, they created the islands as they are now. If you start at the northernmost tip of the Hawaiian island chain and work your way south, they get progressively larger as you go until you get to the furthest south that's above sea level, which is the Big Island here, where this is. So, yep. But yeah, we've been here, but it wasn't doing this. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing that. I just wanted to throw that out there because I was just made aware of it, and it's like, wow, oh hey, get out of there, you.
So
So,
there's no more going back to that place as a park.
right, well, you can still go to that park. You just can't get access to that area. There's a road that goes around it, called Crater Rim Road that now doesn't go all the way around it, because that part of land slid. It collapsed and slid down into the caldera and is now part of that molten stuff that's fountaining right now. So you can go to a certain point, and then there's barricades, and you can't go beyond that. And I guess the roads are just jammed with people up there with cameras and everything, and park rangers going nuts, keeping people back and making sure they're not getting out there and falling off into the thing.
Could you imagine? One's coming at you. Hey,
Yeah, it's a Kodak moment, you know.
I mean, it's like crazy, dude.
Uh, but you tell people you can't go someplace, somebody's going to want to go there, you know. And all too often, oops, they learn the hard way that, you know. But hey, consider it chlorine for the gene pool, you know.
That's bad.
Oh, hey, I mean, sometimes the truth is not what you want to hear. So, man. All righty.
All right, plane landing.
Yeah, let's get some plane landing going on here now that we've played around and showed something that's happening in Hawaii, where it's now 6:36 p.m. in Hawaii right now.
Wow.
No, excuse me, 6:52 p.m.
PM.
Yes,
All
yeah,
right. All right. Are we doing this?
one of us is.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right, guys. Thank you for hanging out. We hope you enjoyed the show. We go live every Tuesday. Sometimes we miss a week or so, depending, but
That
we
was
go
my
live.
fault.
Well, sometimes it's my fault. So, but we go live every Tuesday, roughly speaking, more than not, at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific Coast time here on the Trampled Underfoot podcast show on YouTube, and also on Facebook. We have our site over there, which is Trampled Underfoot podcast on Facebook. So make sure to check that out because Mark's going to link to some videos, perhaps the live
Well,
ones or
yeah,
the
well, I'll link to these three cams. Yeah.
um, and we also have a website which is trampledunderfootpodcast.com where you can catch our past episodes and conversations. You can download them as podcasts, MP3s,
Mhm.
and so on. And we're sponsored by
Harneil Media, your one stop website shop. Hey, listen, if you're even toying with the idea of a website, do yourself a favor and get over to Harneil Media. Shoot Steve a message. Tell him what you're looking to do. Tell him how much you want to do, how much you want him to do, and he will take care of you. That's guaranteed. He will take care of you. Uh, the guy's very conveniently priced. Conveniently priced. He's very competitively priced. Man, it's been a long day. It's been a long day. It's just all there is to it. But if you've had a long day, get over to harneilmedia.com. Shoot Steve a message. Tell him the Trampled Underfoot podcast sent you. And yeah, you will be happy that you did. That's Harneal Media, HARNEAL Media.com, sponsor of Trampled Underfoot Podcast.com. From me to you, Eloy, have a great Thanksgiving. Have a happy Thanksgiving, dude. To the folks out in the chat, Steve, well, uh, uh, I can't say to Jim and I can't say to Greg because their Thanksgiving was, a couple months ago. I can say to Frankie, have a great Thanksgiving. Hope that you get to spend it with family and close friends. And I know I get a little bit emotional this time of year, but it is the case. You know somebody that you haven't talked to in a while, be it a family member, be it a friend, reach out, give them a call, and just check on them, make sure everybody's okay. There's somebody out there that wants to hear from you. So give them a call, reach out, and may God bless you and yours.
and from my part, goodwill to everyone. Enjoy yourselves, um, and we'll catch you here next time. I agreed with everything that Mark just said, and so till next time, see you.
Peace.